In the modern world, we operate under the assumption that we are always being watched. Because we are. There are cameras on every street corner in Manhattan. There are tracking chips in every smartphone in our pockets. Satellites drift silently overhead, mapping our movements in real time. We are told that in this digital age, true anonymity is a myth. It is impossible to disappear. But on the freezing morning of December 4th, a man in a cream-colored mask challenged that reality. He walked up to one of the most powerful billionaires in America. A man responsible for the health coverage of millions, and pulled the trigger. He didn't run, he didn't panic. He simply vanished. For 5 days, the most sophisticated police force in the world hunted a ghost. The media called him a professional hitman. The internet called him a dark avenger. But they were all wrong. He wasn't a mercenary. He was a warning. This is the story of the assassination of Brian Thompson and the 5-day manhunt that proved one terrifying fact. You can have all the money in the world, but you cannot pay for safety. December 4th began like any other winter Wednesday in Midtown Manhattan. The city was waking up under a blanket of steel-gray clouds. The temperature hovered near freezing, the kind of cold that seeps through coats and settles in your bones. Steam rose in thick, white plumes from the subway grates, masking the streets in a temporary fog. Outside the New York Hilton on 6th Avenue, the rhythm of the city was accelerating. Delivery trucks idled at the curbs, their exhaust mixing with the steam. Businessmen in wool coats clutched their coffees, heads down, marching toward their offices. It is the busiest corridor in America, a place where thousands of faces pass you by every minute, and you remember none of them. But if you look closely at the surveillance footage from that morning, there is one figure who is out of place. He isn't rushing. He isn't looking at his phone to check emails. He is standing near the entrance of the hotel, perfectly still. He is wearing a dark jacket, a backpack, and a cream-colored neck gaiter pulled up over his nose. He's waiting. The man he is waiting for is Brian Thompson. At 50 years old, Thompson sits at the pinnacle of the American corporate ladder. As the CEO of UnitedHealthcare, he manages the medical fates of millions of people. His decisions dictate who gets surgery and who gets denied, who receives life-saving medication and who is told it is not medically necessary. Thompson is in New York for an investor conference. The goal of the day is to speak about growth, stock prices, and the future of the company's profits. He is a man who is used to being insulated from the world. He has drivers, he has assistants, he has wealth that most people can only dream of. But on this specific morning, there is a gap in the armor. Due to a scheduling quirk, or perhaps just a sense of safety in a high-end hotel, he is alone. There is no security detail flanking him. No bodyguards scanning the perimeter. At 6:44 a.m., a black town car pulls up to the curb. The door opens, and Brian Thompson steps out onto the sidewalk, completely exposed. The surveillance cameras capture the moment with chilling clarity. As Thompson steps out of the car, the figure in the mask begins to move. He doesn't sprint. He doesn't scream. His movements are fluid and practiced, almost mechanical. He walks calmly behind the CEO, closing the distance in seconds. To the few bystanders nearby, he might have looked like just another pedestrian trying to navigate the morning rush. But his intent is singular. He reaches into his jacket and produces an object that looks peculiar. It isn't a standard military issue. It is gray, blocky, and strange. It is a fabricated device an untraceable instrument. It has no identification mark. It was likely assembled in a basement or a garage, piece by piece. Attached to the end is a modifier designed to dampen the sound of the discharge. This detail alone tells investigators later that this was not a crime of passion. This was a crime of calculation. The perpetrator had prepared not just to end a life, but to do so quietly. The shooter raises the weapon. He fires. The sound is not the thunderous crack of a standard firearm, but a suppressed pop. Brian Thompson falls to the pavement immediately. The chaos on the street is instantaneous, yet the shooter remains in his own bubble of calm. Then, a complication. The gun jams. In a high-stress situation, an amateur would panic. They would drop the weapon or run. But the man in the mask does neither. He calmly manipulates the slide of the pistol, clearing the malfunction with the muscle memory of someone who has practiced this motion hundreds of times. He fires again, and then he stops. He doesn't empty the magazine wildly. He ensures the job is done, and then he simply turns around. He walks away. He doesn't sprint down the middle of the avenue. He slips into a nearby alleyway, blending back into the shadows of the city. Behind him, on the cold concrete, lie the shell casings. They are not just evidence. They are a manifesto. Written on them in permanent marker are 3 words: deny, defend or depose. Those 3 words, deny.defend, depose, would soon set the internet on fire. They are a reference to a controversial strategy allegedly used by insurance companies to avoid paying out claims. The implication was clear. This wasn't a robbery gone wrong. This wasn't a random act of violence. This was an execution with a specific motive. By 7 a.m., the NYPD swarms the scene. Sirens wail through the canyons of Midtown. Detective arrive, expectant, trail, professional him. The precision of the attack, the use of a silencer, and the calmness of the shooter all point to a contract kill. They assume he is already in a getaway car, perhaps heading to a private airfield or slipping across state lines in a rental. But as they pull the footage from surrounding businesses, a different picture begins to emerge. The ghost didn't jump into a waiting van. He didn't have a team. He was operating entirely on his own, using the city's own infrastructure to facilitate his escape. The timeline of the shooter's morning is reconstructed frame by frame. Cameras catch him minutes before the shooting, not in a dark alley, but at a Starbucks. He is seen buying a water bottle and a granola bar. He pays with cash. He looks relaxed, almost bored. There is no shaking of the hands, no nervous pacing. He is fueling up for a day of work. After the shooting, instead of fleeing the city immediately, he enters Central Park. He rents a city bike. It is a brazen move. He pedals through the park, the wind biting at his face, just another cyclist on a morning ride. He ditches the bike and hails a taxi. From there, he heads to the George Washington Bridge bus station. This is a critical junction. It is a hub of transit that connects New York to the rest of the country. He boards a bus. He is surrounded by commuters, people listening to music, reading books, sleeping against the windows. None of them know that the man sitting quietly in the back, gazing out at the Hudson River, has just become the most wanted man in America. For the first 24 hours, the NYPD is frustrated. They have the shooter's image, the mask, the jacket, the backpack, but they don't have a name. The ghost gun means there are no registration records to trace. The lack of a cell phone at the scene means no digital ping to triangulate. He has seemingly ghosted them. The media frenzy begins. The story dominates every news cycle. CEO assassinated in Midtown, the insurance killer. But online, a different narrative takes hold. Social media platforms explode with debate. While many condemn the violence, a disturbing number of voices express a lack of sympathy for the victim. People begin sharing their own horror stories of denied claims, of surgeries canceled at the last minute, of life savings drained by medical bills. The shooter's message, deny, defend, depose, resonates with a population tired of a broken system. The killer is controlling the narrative from the shadows. He has turned a murder investigation into a national referendum on American healthcare. Days 2 and 3 pass. The trail is cold. The FBI joins the hunt, deploying massive resources. They scour flight manifests, train logs, and bus schedules. They receive thousands of tips, most of them useless. The shooter is moving, but he is moving smartly. We later learn he traveled south, perhaps to Atlanta, before doubling back north. He is using cash for everything. He stays in hostels, sharing rooms with strangers who have no idea they are sleeping feet away from a killer. He wears his mask constantly, using the lingering habits of the pandemic era to hide his face without drawing suspicion. He is disciplined. He doesn't turn on a primary phone. He doesn't log into social media to brag. He is a ghost in the machine, drifting through the cracks of society. It seems, for a moment, that he might actually get away with it. That he might just fade into the vastness of the American landscape, leaving behind only a mystery. Back in New York, profilers are working overtime. Who is this man? Professional hitmen usually use reliable, factory-made weapons. A 3D printed gun is the tool of an amateur, enthusiast, or an engineer. They look at his gait, his patience. They realize he is likely highly intelligent. He has planned this for weeks, maybe months. He knows where the cameras are. He knows the rhythms of the city. But there is also an element of arrogance. The handwritten message on the shell casings was a risk. It was theatrical. This suggests a mission-oriented offender, someone who believes they are acting for a greater good. They view themselves not as criminals, but as soldiers in a war. This makes them dangerous because they are not motivated by money. They are motivated by ideology. And unlike a mercenary who can be bought, a true believer cannot be reasoned with. But even the most disciplined mind eventually falters. The human brain craves routine. It craves comfort. And it is this simple human need that leads to the ghost's undoing. It is December 9th, 5 days after the shooting. We are in Altoona, Pennsylvania. It is a quiet, working-class town, hundreds of miles from the skyscrapers of New York. The pace here is slow. The police scanner chatters about traffic stops and domestic disputes. A man walks into a McDonald's on East Plank Road. It is him. He is still wearing the mask. He orders food as brown, it. He opens a laptop. He looks like a student or a remote worker passing through. But he is tired. The adrenaline of the escape has faded, replaced by the exhaustion of the road. He lowers his guard. He sits in the corner, trying to be invisible. But in a small town, strangers stand out. An employee at the McDonald's is on their break. They are scrolling through their phone looking at the news. They see the wanted poster that has been plastered across every screen in the country. They look up. They see the man in the booth. They see the cream-colored mask. They see the jacket. It matches. But it's the nose that catches their attention. The specific shape of the nose visible above the mask. The employee hesitates. It seems impossible. Why would the most wanted man in America be sitting in a McDonald's in Altoona? But the resemblance is too strong. Quietly, without causing a scene, they alert a manager. The manager calls 911. It is a call that changes history. I think the guy you're looking for is here, in booth 4. 2 officers from the Altoona Police Department respond. They don't storm the building with SWAT teams. They don't know for sure if it's him. They walk in calmly, just a cop's doing a routine check. They approach the booth. The man looks up. His eyes are wide. The officers ask for identification. The man hands them a fake ID. It says he is from New Jersey. It's a high-quality forgery, but the officers are suspicious. The name doesn't check out in the system immediately. Then, the critical moment. One of the officers asks him to lower his mask. The man hesitates. In that split second of hesitation, the air in the restaurant shifts. The tension spikes. He knows the game is up. He slowly pulls down the fabric. They move in. They grab his arms. He doesn't fight. He doesn't reach for the gun in his bag. He allows them to cuff him. As they lead him out of the restaurant, the reality of the situation hits him. The silence of his 5-day exile is broken as he is being dragged toward the squad car. He turns his head toward the onlookers, the shocked families eating their meals, the staff watching from behind the counter. He shouts, "This is for the people." It is a chilling echo of the message on the shell casings. He wants to be seen as a martyr. He wants the world to know that this wasn't a random act. He believes he has struck a blow for the common man against the giants of industry. The officers shove him into the back of the car. The ghost has been caught. Back at the station, investigators open his backpack. It is a treasure trove of evidence. It is, essentially, a confession kit. Inside, they find the 3D printed pistol. They find the silencer. They find the clothes he wore during the shooting. But they also find something more revealing. They find a handwritten manifesto. Pages and pages of writing. It details his grievances. It outlines his philosophy. It confirms what the profilers suspected. This was a deeply personal crusade. They also find $10,000 in cash. He had liquidated his assets. He was ready to run for a long time. But the backpack also contained his laptop and phone. Digital forensics would soon unlock the entire history of his planning, the search history. The maps, the 3D printing schematics. The case against him was airtight. The blame Luigi Mangione. The world holds its breath, expecting to see the face of a career criminal, a man hardened by prison and violence. Instead, they see a clean-cut young man. Luigi is 26 years old. He's handsome with a Jolla magazine. He comes from a prominent real estate family in Maryland. He attended a private boys' school that costs $37,000 a year. He was the valedictorian. He went on to earn a master's and bachelor's degree in computer science from an Ivy League university. He was the golden boy. He had everything going for him: wealth, education, a bright future in the tech industry. How does a young man with the world at his feet become an assassin? The media struggles to reconcile the two images, the privileged scholar and the cold-blooded killer. As journalists dig deeper, cracks in the golden image appear. Friends and former classmates describe a shift in Luigi over the last few years. He had disappeared from social circles. He had become withdrawn. The root of this change appears to be physical pain. Reports surface that Luigi suffered from a severe, chronic back condition. He had undergone surgeries. He had titanium rods inserted into his spine. Anyone who has lived with chronic pain knows the darkness it can bring. It erodes your patience. It eats away at your sanity. It appears that Luigi had navigated the healthcare system not as a prince, but as a patient. He had likely faced the bureaucracy, the denials, the endless phone calls. Even with his family's money, he saw the machinery of the insurance industry up close. He saw it as a system designed to maximize profit at the expense of human suffering. In his isolation, Luigi began to read. He began to write. His manifesto reveals a mind that had become obsessed with the power dynamics of modern capitalism. He wrote that these corporations had gotten too powerful. He believed they were abusing the country for immense profit. This is a classic pathway to radicalization. A personal grievance, his pain merges with a political ideology, anti-corporate sentiment. He stopped seeing his pain as bad luck and started seeing it as the result of a malevolent system. And he identified a target. Brian Thompson wasn't just a man to Luigi. He was a symbol. Killing him wasn't murder in Luigi's eyes. It was a strategic strike. He utilized his intellect, the same intellect that got him into the Ivy League, to design a weapon and a plan. He used his discipline to execute it. He applied the computer science to the work and the capture of Luigi Mangione brings a sense of relief to the NYPD, but it leaves the country in a complicated place. Brian Thompson is dead. A family has lost a father and a husband. Colleagues have lost a leader. The brutality of the act cannot be understated. It was a cold execution on a public street. However, the conversation Luigi wanted to start has begun, though perhaps not in the way he intended. The phrase deny, defend, depose has entered the cultural lexicon. It has forced a spotlight onto the practices of managed care. Luigi sits in a cell in Pennsylvania, awaiting extradition to New York. He faces charges that will likely put him in prison for the rest of his life. The golden boy will grow old in a concrete box. His potential is wasted. His life is effectively over. In the end, this is a tragedy on all sides. It is the tragedy of a man like Brian Thompson, who woke up for work and never came home. It is the tragedy of Luigi Mangione, whose brilliance was warped by pain and radicalism until he became a monster. But it is also a story about the fragility of our perceived safety. We build systems to protect us: police, cameras, laws. We build fortunes to insulate us. But, as Luigi Mangione proved on that cold December morning, there is always a ghost in the machine. There is always an anomaly that the system cannot predict. A man in a mask, a 3D printed gun, a bicycle in Central Park. The 5-day manhunt is over, but the echo of those shots on 6th Avenue will ring in the ears of corporate America for a long time. It serves as a dark reminder that in a world of immense inequality, anger can be the most dangerous weapon of all. This has been a quiet crime story. Thank you for watching.